John told me to hold the microphone really close to my mouth so everybody can hear. So if I get too loud, it's John's fault. Here we go. I'm Tisha, and I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I suffer with chemical dependency, codependency, depression, anxiety, and a little bit of some of everything. I just want to say this too. I'm not used to reading my testimony. I've been challenged to do that once before. It didn't go well, and John has challenged me again, and I am going to read from the paper. God gave me the words that I put down on this paper. I prayed when I wrote it, and I know that His Spirit was flowing through me as it came out. I'm a child of God. My name is Tisha. I'm a woman living in long-term recovery. What that means to me is that I haven't found it necessary to use any mood or mind-altering substances since July the 26th of 2014. Yes. Growing up in a small town and spending time with my family and church friends was my normal. I made good grades. I played piano and trumpet. T-ball led to softball, cartwheels, backbends, and splits led me to the middle school cheerleading squad. Yearbook committee and photojournalism were my favorite extracurricular activities. Being voted student council secretary was quite an accomplishment. My daughter was born in November of my senior year, and I graduated in June. I started college in the fall and soon dropped out. I was content with being a waitress, raising my daughter. Her dad and I moved in together, and 3 years later, at age 21, I gave birth to our twins. So fast forward over the next 6 years. Life was good. At age 26, during a bachelorette party, I tasted alcohol, snorted cocaine, took pills, and smoked cigarettes for the first time, all in one night. See, for years, I suffered with low self-esteem. I'm going to share something with you guys that I've not shared with a whole large group of people. I've shared it with my sponsor, and I've shared it with a few people in my family and other close friends. But I just felt like I needed to put it in the testimony tonight. Okay. I was also pregnant at age 19. I made a decision to abort my baby, and it would be many years before I was able to heal from this unspoken loss. I was not living in a healthy relationship with my children's dad, and I was struggling with negative body image. I had been overweight since adolescence. My weight was 265 when the twins were born, and steadily increased over the next few years. Pretending was a full-time job. I never talked to anyone about my feelings. I was depressed, and I was suffering silently. I gave great attention to creating the perfect life. It was my full-time job. Attending church service, but not saved and serving God, throwing the best birthday parties, and always spending too much money, I was sinking deeper and deeper into depression. I was exhausted. That night of the bachelorette party changed my way of thinking forever. I was hooked. Within 6 months, I was smoking crack and had completely abandoned my children. I lived to use, and I used to live. I had sex with strangers for money, robbed people, and stole from local businesses. 2 prison sentences later, I was ready to get my life back together. But I didn't work a 12-step program or associate myself with any other recovering addicts or alcoholics, and I never truly surrendered to God. I relapsed. I went back to the cold, lonely streets searching for money and drugs. Heroin was readily available and cheap, so I went all in. Speedballing was my best friend. I couldn't smoke crack without shooting dope. I fell in love with the feelings drugs gave me. The devil had me chained down in the pits of hell. Many people, especially my grandmother, prayed continuously over my life. Today, I know God had assigned an earthly angel to love me in the midst of all of that pain. Hashtag, Nikki is my angel. She gave me food, hugged me, prayed with me, and never failed to let me know just how much Jesus loved me, just as I was. This good Christian woman even washed and bandaged my blistered feet. On July 26, 2014, after 2.5 years of heroin and crack cocaine use, I was fleeing the cops on multiple FTA charges. Looking back, I know specifically that God placed my open warrants file into Officer Woodliff's hands. He was looking for me and asking people to call him if they saw me. Little did I know that my walk into a trap house that Saturday morning would end the way that it did. Plus the fact that I cannot praise God enough that it did. He received a phone call revealing my whereabouts, and he arrived shortly after that. I was angry, exhausted, and defeated. As he approached me, I was raising my voice, asking him why he was so concerned about me when drug dealers were so busy making moves all around us. The words he spoke that day has a permanent place in my memory. He said, "Today is not their day. Today is your day." He was calm and patient with me. See, I knew there would be no making bond, and I would surely be sentenced to prison. He allowed me to smoke a cigarette, gather my thoughts, and heard my plea to call my children. He gave me his phone to place that call. On the way downtown, he was compassionate and asked questions about my life and the decisions that I had been making. He was invested as an officer into who, what, why, and how I and so many others were living a life in the streets and addicted to drugs. I kept it real, and for the first time in a long time, the addict inside of me felt like Tisha. Simply because this man was dedicated to his job and talked to me like I was a human being and not just a junkie or a convict. I was sentenced to prison for the third time. Several months later, I surrendered my life to the care of God, and I asked Jesus to forgive me for my sins. I invited him to come and live in my heart. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone and the new is here." At that very moment, I was saved and set free from the strong arms of addiction. A friend from Henderson mailed me a Celebrate Recovery Bible. I used it to complete a drug treatment program. The Oxford House Prison Reentry Program arranged for me to do an interview with the house. I was accepted. Upon release, my parole officer took me to Raleigh, and I was welcomed home by the ladies at North Hills Oxford House. I started each day with prayer and meditation. I got a job waiting tables at IHOP. I attended 12-step meetings, including CR and AA. I got a sponsor, and I kept showing up. I learned to trust other women, and I allowed them to love me. They taught me to love myself. I was given an opportunity to rebuild the relationship with my children. They are my precious gifts from God. I worked through the steps painstakingly, to say the least. It was one thing to work out my treatment plan. It was merely preparation for the real work to begin. Inventory requires being honest. After all, keeping secrets keep us sick. Most of my fourth-step work centered on my tendencies to ruin relationships, dealing with my own self-will, self-pity, guilt, and shame. I had been participating in sex work during active addiction, and I was suffering from sexual and physical abuse. All of these things piled on top of the feelings of guilt and shame related to drug use, destroying communities, and committing crimes. Once I was able to ask God to guide my thoughts and emotions, I was able to put my pen to paper. At times it flowed. At times I had to pause and pray. I was gaining a new perspective on the bigger picture, patterns, and responsibilities. The past had been painful, but the steps were helping me find my authentic self, and I was falling in love with the woman that I saw in the mirror again. Trust me when I say I found freedom from bondage that had once caused me to question my worth. I was guilty, but I am no longer ashamed. There is nothing that can be shared about me that I'm not willing to sit down and talk to someone about. My life is an open book. Today, what you see is what you get. I was busy growing. Oxford House and support groups taught me a new way to live and encouraged me on my way. I met a sweet lady named Mary. Today, she's my very best friend. After having my license reinstated, Mary allowed me to drive a car that she owned. I enrolled in school and moved out of Oxford House. I completed my first semester of college and I bought my own car. For the first time in my life, I was truly proud of myself. I was also falling in love with a kind and gentle man. His name is Casey. I was growing and taking good care of myself, and I was helping others. I completed my North Carolina peer support certification and worked part-time with Cottage Health Care. While continuing full-time with IHOP, this soon proved to be too much. Being invested in my college education, I decided to stop work with Cottage and continue on my way. My favorite day of the week was Thursday because I'd drive home to Henderson to spend time with my kids and attend Celebrate Recovery. Nearly a year and a half later, I moved in with Casey and his son Caleb. We were growing and becoming a family. I started applying for full-time inpatient peer support positions. I was turned down time and time again. My criminal background was a barrier. I was depressed and overwhelmed. After all, I was attending school to be a substance abuse counselor, and I couldn't find employment in an inpatient peer support unit. Had I misunderstood God's call on my life? I continued to attend 12-step meetings, and I found a Celebrate Recovery meeting close to us in Selma, Temple. These programs teach me to surrender and to stop forcing my will and to allow God to work. So I took off my God shoes and I moved out of his way. And boy, oh boy, did he move. I was offered a position with Oxford House as a peer advocate, and I gladly accepted. Building relationships with new residents while connecting them to resources fills a space in my heart that I never realized was empty. Soon after, I interviewed with Alcohol Drug Council of North Carolina and was hired for a salary position with full benefits as an integrated recovery resource specialist. A year later, so much has changed. I wake up every day with a grateful heart, knowing our work makes a difference. I recently completed requirements for the National Peer Support Certification. This semester, I am working as an intern to complete the Substance Use Intervention Certificate Program with Wait Tech, and I'm expected to graduate with my associate's degree in Human Services. I'm registered with the North Carolina Addiction Specialist Professional Practice Board. I am working to complete 6,000 hours of supervision. I'm planning to sit for the licensure exam in January. I'm praying and seeking guidance about moving forward to receive a bachelor's degree in social work. Receiving that Celebrate Recovery Bible in prison changed my life. I truly believe that I cannot keep what I have unless I give it away. The front lines to the war on drugs is taking the love of God into dark places and sharing his word with others. God has led me into ministry. I am the founder of Planting Seeds. We carry Celebrate Recovery Bibles, resource list, food, clothes, prayers, love, and support out into the streets of Henderson. Meeting others where they are at is vital. On October the 6th, my youngest daughter gave birth to my first grandchild, a handsome, healthy baby boy. He's so pretty. On November 2nd, surrounded by family and friends, I married my soulmate. My oldest daughter graduates from ECU in the spring. My son is working full-time and busy building his life. Caleb, now 13, is growing and finding himself. Our newly formed family is thriving. I have true friends today. I attend church at Temple and Temple Celebrate Recovery meetings where I'm encouraged to grow in my walk with God. I did not misunderstand God's calling for my life. I heard him loud and clear. I'm following my passion, and I'm beyond grateful to know that he's still working on me. My story isn't over. I'm excited to live out the next chapter of my life. God writes beautiful stories, and I'll let him keep the pen. Thank you guys so much. As much as I do like to talk, it's still kind of scary to get up in front of a room of people and talk about all your business. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The purpose of coming to Celebrate Recovery is so that I know I'm not alone, that somebody else here feels or knows what it's like to be me. And it's important that I come so that a newcomer knows that they're not alone and I know what it's like to be them. If there's ever anything that I can do for someone, please let me know. If I can't get it done, I will ask someone else until I find somebody who can help get it done. I'd like to tell you some things. If you're new to Celebrate Recovery, if you get discouraged or you're just not feeling up to things, there were some suggestions that were given to me in the beginning of my recovery process, and I do feel like they helped tremendously. Pray. If you don't know how to pray, it's okay. God knows your heart. If you want someone to pray with you, ask. This church is full of love. Someone will pray over your life. Someone here will put their feet into their prayers over your life because this church cares about this community and they want us to be able to grow and go to heaven. That is the purpose. Read your Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Start there. Matthew. Saying. Those verses saved my life. Keep coming back. If you don't like it, if somebody looked at you funny, the coffee didn't taste good, Tisha talked too much, the guitar was out of tune, John, no, just kidding. Y'all know I'm kidding about all of that. I mean, sometimes we're not always just in a good place, and that's okay. It is okay to not be okay. But when you don't think you need a meeting or when you don't go to a meeting, and I'm preaching to the choir because I'm guilty myself of not getting up and going sometimes, but we all got things to work on. We got busy life. Come. That's one of the things that I'm learning right now. When I don't think I need something is when I need it the most. And we can't keep it. We got to keep pouring into ourselves and to other people. Just keep coming back. Just keep coming back. Even if you ain't talking to nobody, come back. Find me. I'll talk to you. Introduce yourself to people. Ask for phone numbers. Get the phone numbers. The next thing under get the phone numbers in big letters says use them. That's right. The phone can be really, really heavy sometimes, especially when we're calling somebody because we've got stuff going on with us, right? Oh, I need to call somebody because blah, 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 blah. And they ain't got time to listen. Somebody with all those numbers that you have got is waiting for that phone to ring because that's God's plan for that day. Call. God has put somebody in your life to be able to intervene in the moment that you need to be able to talk to somebody. And who knows, maybe it was never about you anyway. Maybe it's about the person who answers the phone. Use the numbers. Come and eat before the meeting. The food is really, really good. There's a lot of love inside of this church for the people who get together and cook these meals and give of their time and their service to the Lord because they're doing what they need to do for their church and for themselves. They are here because they love. Come eat the food. Sit down at the tables. Meet somebody. Introduce yourself. Get a number. Use it. You get to meetings early and you stay at meetings late. Sometimes the best meetings happen before the meeting. Sometimes the best meetings happen after the meeting. Get involved. Find something to do. Ask John. I'm sure he can find you something to do. Kat, can you find somebody something to do? Okay. Join a step study. Work the steps. They work. Those steps saved my life, and they'll continue to save my life because I will continue to work them. It's a daily reprieve. You know, I'm not special just because I've been clean and sober for 5 years. 5 years is the same thing as one day. That's all I got. I ain't got yesterday. I can't do anything about tomorrow. Right down here where my feet's at, that's where I'm at, and I'm sober today. Just a few more. John told me I could preach if I wanted to. Don't keep your feelings to yourself. You're not alone. If you're feeling some type of way, whether it's angry, mad, sad, joyful, happy, crushed, depressed, full of anxiety, you know, the joys and the sadness, that's what we have to share with each other. Because it's those things that get us through the next thing. We don't know what we're going to be grateful and joyful about unless we've been through something. Happy all the time, what you got to look forward to. But my point is to talk to somebody about it. And breathe. Everybody go. Sometimes it's okay if the only thing you did today was breathe. That's it. Trust the process. It is not easy. I will not tell you that it is. If you are working this program and doing the steps, you are digging way down into the dirt. You are pulling things up by their root. You are placing them somewhere else, and you are moving forward. Brand new. Growing in God, through Him. Let Him work. It's not going to happen in one day. I did not become homeless, prostituting, drug addict, going to prison, and doing what I'm doing today in one day. It doesn't happen. But I promise you that if you make the decision to do something different today, if you're in this room and you've got any type of hurt, hang-up, or habit, addiction is what comes out of me the most because that's a huge part of my story. But there's a lot of other things too. Take a step today. It is going to be hard. If you tell me you are not afraid, I will not believe you. You should be very scared to do something different than what you have always done. That is why we stay doing what we always do, and that's because we're comfortable. The devil's got us right where he wants us to be. Move. And just these things last. And I'll just say the words. So if you just listen to the words and take this home with you, okay? Hear God. Trust God. Obey God. And call on God. My name is Tisha Temple, and thank you for letting me share.